And this.
Back in cut, he scored!
And this.
Oh boy, what a move by Embiid!
You think of us. We are sports. 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Hump Day Wednesday edition of Game Night. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here in the Matt Black Kia Studios. Yes, Matt Black Kia. They will get you approved today. Matt Black Kia on the Black Horse Bike, Egg Harbor Township. Visit them online at mattblackkia.com. We got a lot to get to here on the show on 97.3 ESPN. I want to get you guys the latest news with the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot going on news-wise with the Eagles we have to touch on today. Also, Sixers playing the Heat tonight. We already know that no Furkan Korkmaz will be available for tonight's game. Joel Embiid, we're going to wait and find out with him. Georges Niang is going into the COVID protocols. So, which, I mean, you're at the point with some of these guys, and I'll get to this in a little bit, you know, with the Sixers. Do you really need some of these guys? Do you not need some of these guys? It's one of those deals where you kind of have to figure out, you know, where your team is moving forward. It's part of the reason why I wrote the article the other day at 97.3 ESPN.com that you have a situation where, honestly, some of these guys, they're filling roster spots, but they're not really helping your team play well at this point. So we got a lot to get to here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. As always, you could join the conversation at 609-403-0973 is the text board. You could DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City, and we are live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. Dave Weinberg will join us for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday today on 973 ESPN as the Eagles are preparing to play Washington, and that is where we are going to start, because when Nick Sirianni spoke today, I got to admit I had assumptions about what was going to be discussed, and what he said today honestly surprised me. First of all, I expected there to be some sort of like news update about Brandon Brooks, and there wasn't. Instead, today, the Eagles activated the 21-day practice window of Jack Anderson, the offensive lineman they acquired off waivers earlier in the year. Meanwhile, the injury report was a sequel to Sirianni's presser, because Sirianni basically told the media that Hurts and Minshew are splitting reps because they need to be prepared if Hurts is not ready, but they said he's trending in the right direction. Now, today was a walkthrough. So there was not actual like full speed practice going on, but Jalen Hurts is one of the guys listed as limited at practice on the injury report today. And I'm starting to wonder with the Eagles, how much of this is Jalen Hurts' injury and how much of this is the team being overly cautious with him. And here's why I say that. I remember back in the preseason, remember he warms up, he's getting ready to play in that preseason game, and all of a sudden they yank him from the game. And the excuse after the game was he had a gastrointestinal issue. And at the time, I assumed it was, look, the team is trying to protect him from himself. At the time, I assumed that Hurts was one of those guys who's a gamer. He'll go out there and play no matter what. So I assumed the Eagles were like, look, it's a preseason game. We don't want you to be dealing with all these problems. Maybe it's a playoff game he plays. Maybe a regular season game he plays. This is the second time now the team has been hyper cautious with something which seems like it might be unnecessary. And I'm not trying to be a conspiracy guy, but I'm just saying for a guy to have a lower ankle injury, not a high ankle sprain, a low ankle sprain, and to be them this cautious with him makes me wonder if maybe they're trying to protect him from himself. That's kind of where I stand right now. And I'm not saying the Eagles are right and wrong in this case. Obviously, there's still a possibility that Hurts does play on Sunday. But if that ankle is more messed up than they're letting on, or Hurts is letting on, you have to wonder, what does that mean for the rest of the season? You had a bye week. You had an entire week where Hurts didn't have to practice. He didn't have to warm up for a game. He didn't have to do any of that stuff. And now we're sitting here days before the next game, and you're telling me that he's splitting the reps 50-50 with the backup. So either this ankle is way more messed up than they're telling us, or Jalen Hurts is a guy that they think they have to protect him from himself. Because to me, if they were just going to use his injury as a reason to not play him this Sunday, I feel like they wouldn't have listed him as limited at practice. They would list him as DNP or something. But the fact that he's getting 50-50 splits after last game week versus the Jets, reports came out that Minshew took 90% of the reps that week. Today, he took 50-50. So, yes, they're trending in the right direction. But the whole thing is, it's really starting to smell to me. It's really starting to come off a certain way. And I'm not trying to make anything overly presumptuous, but I'm just saying I think it's something we need to keep an eye on. Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, Sixers are back in action tonight. One player for the Sixers has already been ruled out for tonight's game. Now, coming into today, Joel Embiid and Seth Curry were both listed as questionable. Seth Curry has the shoulder. Joel Embiid has the sore right ribs, as they're calling it, which honestly could be anything. I don't want to presume anything when it comes to any of the ribs, so I'm just going to let that be. But Furkan Korkmaz has been ruled out due to a non-COVID related illness. Meanwhile, Georges Niang has been put onto the health and safety protocols list, and he'll be out for Wednesday's game. So you're already without Korkmaz and Niang. So it sounds like the Sixers are going to have to play Embiid and Curry tonight. Because remember, Korkmaz was the guy who started for Curry in Memphis. And then obviously we know with no Embiid, that's where Drummond comes in. But no Niang means that your backup for Tobias Harris is unavailable. So I'm curious to see what the Sixers do tonight. Because they do have a back-to-back tonight and tomorrow. And they're playing a Nets team tomorrow that had only 8 guys available on their game last night. And Durant just went nuts. I mean, the dude was questionable for the game. He had to play because they didn't have him. They would have had to forfeit the game potentially. And he goes out there and has a triple-double. Now you're going into that game potentially shorthanded yourself against a Nets team that is shorthanded as well. I'm curious to see how the Sixers manage the game tonight, because right now the 76ers have to keep pace. As the old saying goes, they need to keep up with the Joneses. They're currently tied with Washington at 15-13. They're right behind the Heat, are 16-12, and they're right ahead of the Hornets, who are 15-14. They are one of 3 teams that have 15 wins this year, as I mentioned. Them, Washington, Charlotte. Tonight is a game where you can show that, yes, we don't have Ben Simmons. Yes, we're a little shorthanded, but we can still go out there and win this game. I'm curious to see, can they keep this game competitive at home? No Bam Adebayo, big loss for Miami. No Tyler Hero, so a little bit of relief for the Sixers on the perimeter when it comes to the outside shooting of the Heat. And probably the biggest news, Bruce Tailbone for Jimmy Butler. He will not play. So you're going against a Heat team that is very vulnerable. 3 of their best, arguably 6 players, Hero, Adebayo, Butler, unavailable. Can you get the win? Tom McGinnis on the call tonight at 7 p.m. You'll find out right here on your home for Sixers basketball, 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here in the Matt Black Kia Studios. We'll talk some Eagles coming up next with Dave Weinberg for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and we are live on YouTube at 97.3 ESPN.
This is the radio home for Philadelphia Eagles football. It's week 15 of the 2021 season with the Eagles hosting the Washington football team.
Sack! Oh, is he smacked down? Oh, is he hit down by Josh Sweat?
Pre-game coverage begins this Sunday at noon. Merrill and Mike call all the action starting at 1. This is where the Eagles play. 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles.
If you suspect you have mold in your home, water damage in your basement or crawl space, or a foundation problem, call Perfect Basement. If you're selling your home, address the problems before your buyer discovers them. Perfect Basement provides free, no-pressure inspections for waterproofing, mold remediation, and foundation repair. They're family-owned in South Jersey, licensed and certified, and accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Visit perfectbasement.com and check out their exclusive price guarantee and great reviews. That's perfectbasement.com.
Listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by my friends over at the FanDuel Sportsbook inside Bally's Hotel Casino in Atlantic City. The retail sportsbook right off the boardwalk in Atlantic City features 5 betting windows, a large video wall, a sports sticker, 20 self-service betting kiosks, and various lounge seats. Get your game face on and score big only at FanDuel Sportsbook in Bally's Hotel Casino in Atlantic City. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Well, one team that's attempting to put their game face on right now are the Philadelphia Eagles because they're coming off a bye week, and I feel like on a day we're supposed to have answers, we have no more answers than we did the last several days. Talk more about it right now is Dave Weinberg joining us for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on YouTube at 973 ESPN. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you? I apologize for the background. I'm sitting in my car at the moment.
Listen, Dave, the connection's good. I think that's all that matters at this point.
There you go.
Listen, I gotta start with this because I thought that today was going to be the day we'd have some clarity, right? You get a bye week, the first time Sirianni talks in over a week, and he comes out, he gives us no update on Brandon Brooks. He tells us that Jalen Hurts is splitting time with Minshew because he's progressing in the right direction. And I'm just like, I thought this team just came off of a bye week, Dave. I thought that, they don't have a ton of guys on the COVID list like Washington does, but yet I feel like we have almost no more answers today about the health of this team at important positions than we did several days ago.
Yeah, I don't know if he's trying to play some sort of cat and mouse game to keep Washington guessing or whatever, but it seemed really strange to me too. I don't understand why. It seemed like Jalen was really close to playing 2 weeks ago, so why isn't he out there now ready to go? Why is he still splitting time with Gardner? That never makes no sense to me. Brandon Brooks, I've come to the conclusion that he's probably going to be out for the rest of the year. It didn't seem like it was supposed to be that big of an injury at the time, but as the weeks and the months have gone on, he's really no closer apparently to playing that he was. So, I mean, yeah, he just seems like he's up in the air about everything. Miles Sanders, same thing. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of it unless he's just trying to be evasive on purpose to keep Washington guessing, like I said.
I mean, maybe he is, but I feel like this is Washington. This is not the Jets. Like you pulled the trick
Right
on the Jets. The Jets assumed Hurts was going to play. You're not going to trick Washington into doing the same thing the Jets did. I feel like the Washington coaching staff is better than the Jets at this point. But still, Dave, I got to wonder, what's going on with Hurts here? Like, are they being overprotective of him? Is this ankle injury maybe worse than they're letting on? Because this whole thing seems suspicious for a guy to have not a high ankle injury, which we know takes a long time to heal.
Right.
This is a low ankle injury. He had an entire bye week off, and he's getting 50-50 snaps in a walkthrough with the backup. It just sounds so strange to me.
Yeah, and they're not doing him any favors either, Josh. I mean, Gardner obviously played very well, albeit it was against the Jets, so you really can't read all that much into it, but some people have. But anyway, yeah, the more that you keep Jalen out to dry, the more you're going to get the fan base all riled up about Gardner, and they're going to get in his corner, and then all of a sudden it's going to be Jalen struggles a little bit, then you're going to have all the fans clamoring for the backup. They're really not, like I said, they're not helping Jalen this unless he is physically still on his way recovering, which I find hard to believe. But otherwise, they should have him out there taking 100% of the snaps. He should be saying he's our quarterback going forward for the rest of the year. Otherwise, you're just going to have this cloud of doubt hanging over your team.
Dave, you've been in Philadelphia and you've seen a lot of quarterback situations, we'll call it, right? You know,
yeah.
I mean, from the whole I mean, you were even covering the Bobby Hoying fiasco in
Oh
Philadelphia.
yeah,
I
yep,
mean,
yep,
he
sure
was
did.
he was walking on water at one point.
Hmm.
Um,
When he first
you know,
started, yep, sure did.
yeah, and then for all the backups who've come through here, and the Jeff Garcia, and then in recent years, it's been anyone who backed up Carson Wentz, not just Nick Foles. But I feel like there was a contingent that always hated Carson Wentz.
Hmm.
I feel like I understand this is part of Philadelphia, but at some point, you'd think somebody in the organization would go to the head coach and be like, "Listen, Nick, I know you've only been here for a year, but this whole backup starting quarterback has a very bad history in this town."
Yeah, I mean, you're like we've often said, the most popular guy on the team is the backup quarterback, and you've seen it repeatedly. Like you said, those guys, AJ Feely, what have you, throw any name out there. You want Coy Detmer.
Great with
Yeah,
that,
it
but
says
yeah.
you need some stability there. You can't. If you want to make a change after the year, then go ahead. If you somehow determine that Jalen is not your starter, I understand. I mean, I don't understand, but if that's the direction you want to go, so be it. But you can't do it now unless, barring injury that's more serious than we think. But otherwise, you have to establish some sort of continuity and stability here going forward if you're making this playoff push. And to keep it up in the air and undecided, you like I said, you're not doing anybody any favors.
Dave Weinberg joining us for another edition of Weinberg Wednesday here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter. His extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Now, Dave, Washington obviously it's a very long history with this division rival, but they're banged up. They're coming in here and they're not going to be 100%. No Jonathan Allen this week. Taylor Heineke just told the media, I think it was today or yesterday, that his elbow hurts. Like that's great. Your starting quarterback, his elbow hurts. That sounds like a great formula for success.
Yeah, really.
So on one hand, it's like, okay, you can win this game, Dave. But on the other hand, you don't want your team, the Eagles in this case, basically thinking that they're assuming to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, overconfidence is never a good thing. Theoretically, it seems like with the number of COVID tests and injuries that Washington is going through, you're essentially going to be playing their JV team on Sunday. But as we've seen in the past, when they've played teams like Minnesota, Indianapolis, I remember one year was really banged up, Seattle, and they wound up losing the game. So you can't take anything for granted in this league. Those guys will be backups, but they're in the NFL for a reason. Some of them are just waiting for an opportunity to prove themselves. So you certainly can't, take your foot off the gas pedal in terms of your preparation or the way you play the game, or else you're going to get beat.
Which side of the ball are you more concerned about coming out of the bye week into this 4-game stretch? Is it the offensive side or the defensive side?
Boy, that's a tough one. I would say probably offense, because there seems to be a little bit of uncertainty because Watkins is dealing with the COVID issue. Devontae Smith has kind of disappeared from the offense in favor of Dallas Goedert. Miles Sanders is dealing with an injury. I don't know about Jordan Howard. I haven't heard anything about him. I don't know if he's ready to play again or not. But
I mean, he was listed. He was listed as limited on the injury report, but as we know, it's still Wednesday. So
right. So I just think the offense, like you said, the quarterbacks are splitting reps. You need to, like I said, you need to establish some continuity there. Give the quarterback, whoever's going to be playing, a chance to get in sync with their offense again. The longer you wait, the more trouble you're going to have doing that. I think the defense is doing okay. I mean, they're not great, but they're, they gave up 3 touchdowns on the first 3 drives against the Jets, which is not a good sign. And Washington has a way of, they don't seem to be that impressive, but they seem to be able to hang around against teams and make pushes at the end of games. Ron Rivera is as good a coach as there is, in my opinion, too. So, if I were going to put the pressure on one of the 2 units, I would say offense. Although special teams hasn't been great either, except for Jake Elliott.
right. Well, I mean, special teams also is. I feel like special teams are something that you can't always quantify, especially for the regular fan, because they don't always understand all stuff that goes into. At least with offense and defense, at least there's things we can isolate on tape or something. Special teams seems like there's a bad play, like when the opening kickoff versus the Jets, right? Like if 2 players literally run a different direction that's not a big play. Like
Right.
it's almost like a brain freeze moment kind of thing. So,
Mm-hmm. And
whereas
then
on
you had
defense,
Jalen Rager dropping the kickoff at the
right,
1 yard line.
exactly.
And
So it's like, special teams is one thing, but to me, like on defense, if you have a bad coverage, or on offense, you have a bad play call, or a quarterback
Mhm.
makes a bad decision, or a guy trips on a play or whatever, like
Right.
I've been telling people this week, to me, the touchdown that Brady threw on Sunday, to get off the Eagles for a second, but use an example. The touchdown that Brady threw on Sunday, to me, is symbolic of Brady's career and the Bills season, because
Yep.
Brady's 700th touchdown pass was his first touchdown pass to a guy they just signed that week with the Bucs. Like,
Right.
that's
Right.
Tom Brady in a nutshell. He finds the open guy and he wins. And on the flip side, Buffalo's entire season has been they get you right to the finish line and they can't finish the game because they let a guy get wide open on a crossing route. So it's like in football, I feel like the fans see offense and defense, but when you look at special teams, it's very much, unless a kicker's constantly missing kicks, it's like the smallest little thing can change one special team play from one scenario to another.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely an unheralded or kind of overlooked segment of the game, but you're right. It can play a big factor in the outcome. Your kicker misses a game-winning field goal, but not even that. Just you're trying to flip the field a lot of times with your punter too, and a bad punt can swing the momentum of the other team. Yeah, there's so many like little things that often get unnoticed, but yeah, they can have a huge impact. But you're right. I mean, offense and defense are the segments that people most pay the most attention to, and they're probably, I don't want to say that they're most important, but they are pretty important. Yes.
Now, Dave, the Eagles are pretty much locked in at this point with their 3 first-round picks, thanks to Carson Wentz playing enough snaps
Mm-hmm.
for the
Yep.
Colts. And Frank Reich, as we know, plays to win. He doesn't play for draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks to Frank Reich for that. But now the Eagles have 3 first-round picks. Obviously, it's early in the process, but are you saying the Eagles got to go in there and get 3 defensive players? Do they need to split between offense and defense? If Howie Roseman was to call you, what are you telling him?
Oh boy, I don't think he was calling me, but if he did, I'm going to focus on defense. I think, although, like Howie's often said, you can never have enough good offensive linemen. So if there's a so-called stud there in the first round, I'm tempted to go after him too. There's been a lot of talk about everybody wants that franchise quarterback. I frankly don't see one there worthy of it at the moment. I mean, it could change. I think like Carson Wentz went into his senior year as like an undrafted free agent caliber kind of guy before lit the world on fire. So maybe there's still time for somebody to emerge to the top of the pack and be that so-called franchise guy. But the Eagles have more pressing needs, I guess I would say, for the defensive side of the ball. Secondary, you can never get enough help. Defensive line, those guys aren't getting any younger. So I would probably focus more on the defensive side, at least maybe 2 of the 3 picks if they're not going to package them. Just, if you're going to stay and make those 3 picks, I would probably go defense on at least 2 of them.
Yeah, see, I'm conflicted, Dave, because on one hand, I would go all defense in the first round because I feel like you can never go wrong in getting some more high-level talent. But on the flip side, there's a part of me that says, what if you package 2 of those picks and try to move up in the draft? And maybe even get a better defensive player, for example, like Alexander from Notre Dame, or someone who's going to walk in the building and be an impact player in the defense. There's a part of me that's like, I love the 3 picks, but another part of me it's like, but if you can go and get something better, why not do it?
Yeah, yeah. And I've heard you talk during the week about the difference in defensive offensive strategies. More and more teams are focusing on the run. And like you and I have said, there's no Jeremiah Trotter or Levon Kirkland out there now. Well, if there's one there in the draft, the Eagles haven't drafted a linebacker forever in the first round. But maybe if there's that stud middle linebacker there, you see the trend the NFL is moving towards, maybe you go ahead and get that guy.
Well, that's why for me, for example, a guy that I'm looking at is the guy from Notre Dame, Kyle Hamilton, because even though I know he's a safety at Notre Dame, he looks like a guy who might be a linebacker in this kind of defense. So,
sure.
And he's a sideline to sideline kind of tackling machine. And I feel like if Davion Taylor's healthy and then you put Hamilton next to him, let's say. You got two just special athletes who just can run all over the place and get people.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, but I, in all fairness, I've been pretty impressed with TJ Edwards and Alex Singleton too. But yeah, if there's that, that game changing kind of guy, then I'd be really tempted to go ahead and do it. But like we've often said, Howie, I mean, Jerry Robinson's the last guy they took in the first round. I think Howie was probably in kindergarten back then. So there's no, they haven't proven that they've been willing to take that kind of chance in that position yet. So, but if you're going to do it, maybe this is the year.
Hopefully, maybe there's a Jonathan Gannon influence going on here.
There you go.
At least we know with Jim Schwartz, he didn't care about linebackers very much. We know that.
No, not much. No.
So
Jim Johnson did, but
Jim Johnson did, but it feels like everyone since Jim Johnson didn't really care too much about who the linebackers are, especially when you had Juan Castillo at one point serving as D coordinator. That was
Billy Davis too. Yeah,
Billy Davis. Yeah, absolutely. Billy Davis, the genius in chief. Dave Weinberg joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN for a Weinberg Wednesday. Dave, obviously, before I let you, I would be remiss if I don't ask you. Your Appalachian State football team is playing this Saturday.
Got my shirt on right now, as a matter of fact.
There you go, against Western Kentucky. Now, this game is 11 a.m. in the morning kickoff Eastern time. Any concern that your team might not be awake for an 11 a.m. kickoff?
My Mountaineers are always ready to play. It doesn't matter. Western Kentucky, they have no idea what's about to hit them. I'm going App State all the way on Saturday.
So you have full confidence that your defense is going to be able to deal with Western Kentucky's offense?
Absolutely.
So you're not afraid of that 68.5 over-under?
No doubt. No doubts at all. Go Mountaineers.
There you go. App State plays Western Kentucky, and I believe it's I don't remember what sponsor it is. I lose track of all the sponsors, but I believe it's the Boca Raton Bowl.
Correct.
The bowl.
Yeah. Nice weather. I wish I could have gone, but I
feel like I don't even know who the sponsor is this year, honestly.
Nah, I don't know.
I feel like every year the sponsors are changing for these bowls. So as long as I remember where the bowl is and what time the bowl is, I'll be okay. I feel like that's kind of like where I'm at this point. They literally added a bowl this year, Dave, because they lost 3 bowls and they wanted to make sure that they had 42 bowls for 84 teams so they could put Hawaii in the Hawaii Bowl. Like, that's where we are now. We're creating bowls so Hawaii can be in the Hawaii Bowl.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad state of affairs. It really is. There's way too many of them, but I guess it generates some revenue. Fans, season ticket holders, and sponsors enjoy it. So I guess it's more the merrier, though I can't say that I'm going to watch a whole lot of them, though. I'll be watching this one. I'll be watching Arizona State against Wisconsin in the Las Vegas Bowl because my son's a Sun Devil grad. And then obviously I'll be watching the major bowls. But other than that, I don't know how much attention I'll pay to them.
Well, I know where you will be this Saturday at 11 a.m. You will be glued to your team playing in the Boca Raton Bowl, the Appalachian State team versus Western Kentucky. I just can't believe it's 11 a.m. I can't get over that, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you.
I mean, I'll be sitting here trying to remember what time it is. I'll be like, oh, snap. The kickoff is going on right now. I have to flip the channel, but I digress. Yep. Dave Weinberg, another edition of Weinberg Wednesday. Follow him on Twitter at Dave Weinberg 19. Check out his extra point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. He joins us every Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, always appreciate you jumping on the conversation.
Oh, thanks a lot, Josh. I appreciate it. And then make sure people if they get a chance to check out Cage Fury at Hard Rock on Friday. This is their first time back since March of 2019 or 2020, something like that. So great organization. They usually do a first-class job. So if you get a chance to get a ticket or what have you, you should check it out.
Does that mean you will be in attendance to cover it?
I'm hoping to. I'm torn between that and it's the opening of high school basketball season on Friday. So I was thinking of maybe checking out one of those games. So, I mean, but I'll definitely be at one of the places. I'm not sure which yet, though.
Well, follow Dave on Twitter. He'll let you know at Dave Weinberg.
There you go.
19. Dave, talk to you next week.
All right, Josh. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Take care.
Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Look at that. Dave Weinberg is torn between high school basketball and going to cover a fight. So that tells you where his mind is. By the way, speaking of high school sports, we have all the highlights from National Letter of Intent Day right now on 973ESPN.com, the 973 ESPN mobile app. Numerous South Jersey high school football stars all have made their announcements official. So you can check out the full list over there at 973ESPN.com. Josh Hennig hanging out with all of you here at 973 ESPN on YouTube. The text board is open as well at 609-403-0973 for all of you listening on 973 ESPN FM. Don't forget the 973 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of CLC. You could DM the show through the app as well. Come to the other side. I'll get to all your messages. I see James. I see Dan EHT. I see others as well out there. So jump in the conversation with all your messages on the other side right here on Game Night with me, Josh Hennig.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Action to Harris. What a slam by Tobias Harris. Right down Broad Street. A two-hand slam.
The Sixers host the Miami Heat. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
With GMF approval excludes Corvette. Hold everything. Before you sell or trade your vehicle, get to Bennett Chevy for the best offer ever. Now till the end of the year, Bennett Chevrolet is paying a minimum $8,000 for any trade. That's the starting offer. $8,000 for any old bomb you can get to our lot towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. Think about that. If we're paying a minimum $8,000, imagine how much more we'll pay for a good trade. And we'll buy yours even if you don't buy ours. Bennett wants your trade. So grab your title or payment book and get here today. Looking for new? We all know the high prices dealers are charging these days, but Bennett still refuses the opportunity to charge a penny over MSRP. Stuck in a lease? We can get you out early. Every make and model. Come see what your vehicle's worth today. There's absolutely no obligation and no pressure, because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN being brought to you by my friends over at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Basketball fans, celebrate the NBA's 75th anniversary season with FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can place their first bet risk-free. And if you don't win, you'll get the $1,000 back. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now is a perfect time to give it a shot. There's no better place to bet on the NBA than with FanDuel. So sign up and see for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and sign up using promo code Hennig. You get your first bet risk-free up to $1,000 and make every moment more this NBA season when you sign up with promo code Hennig exclusively on FanDuel Sportsbook. If you already have an account with FanDuel Sportsbook, you are getting hooked up with $50 when you refer a friend. Plus, your friend will get $50 too. Just invite them using your exclusive referral link, which can be easily found when you type the refer icon on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Must be 21 or older and present in New Jersey. First online real money wager only. Refund issued as non-withdrawable site credit that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Get some of you guys' messages here on Game Night before we get out of here. Again, Sixers basketball at the top of the hour. Tom McGinnis on the call here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Joel Embiid is playing. His starting lineup is Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, Tyrese Maxey, and then Matisse Thybulle is in the lineup tonight. Considering that the Heat are without Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero tonight. And of course, Adebayo is going to be out an indefinite amount of time because of the surgery he had. It seems like the Sixers are going to win this game tonight. I know on FanDuel Sportsbook they're currently minus 7.5, so it feels like the Sixers are going to get a win tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. A couple of messages that came in. First about the Sixers, James chimes in on the YouTube channel and says, Brandon Ingram, what do you think, Josh? Well, I think Brandon Ingram is a scorer. I think he's a guy that I could see the Sixers finding a use for. The problem is that Ingram, right now the Sixers have two major flaws. In the Grizzlies game and in the Jazz loss recently, their flaws were exposed exponentially in two areas. And that is they're the worst rebounding team in the NBA and that their perimeter defense is poor right now. Ingram doesn't fix either of those problems. Now he fixes their third problem, which is a guy who can get his own shot and who can score. But at the end of the day, that's third on the list of problems right now for the Sixers. So if you trade Ben Simmons and you only get back, let's say, Brandon Ingram, I feel like you didn't fix any of your problems. The Sixers need to get guys who can play better defense than what they have right now, and they need guys who can get more rebounds than the current batch of guys. To me, that's why when people talk about guys like Domantas Sabonis and Karis LeVert, DeJounte Murray, they all make sense because they're all guys who do those things. The problem is that I don't know how serious Indiana is about blowing up their team, and I don't know how serious the Spurs are about acquiring Ben Simmons at this point. Dan EHT chimes in at 609-403-0973 about the Eagles. He says we can't forget about how important Jalen Hurts' legs are. If his ankle isn't good, it is what it is. Dan EHT goes on to say maybe this is all to keep Washington guessing about who's playing. Well, the first thing, Dan, is I think the second point, if Washington is not prepared for either scenario, then they're worse coaches than the Jets have. But I understand what you're saying about Hurts' legs. Obviously, Hurts' running ability is a huge catalyst to the offense, and he is the team's leading rusher this year. I just feel like something doesn't smell right. Something doesn't add up. Something doesn't make sense to me when it comes to the fact that Hurts had an entire week of rest, didn't even play in the last game, and even now, he's still limited practice and splitting the reps 50-50. It just doesn't add up to me. I feel like there's something they're not telling us. Either the ankle is worse than they're saying, or the team is trying to protect Hurts from himself because, Jalen is maybe a guy who downplays all of his injuries and he acts like he's healthier than he is when he's not. Sixers have to do that with Joel Embiid all the time. They got to protect Joel from himself because he has this habit of trying to play through everything. So we'll see what happens with the Eagles. More NFL talk tomorrow with Andy McNamara for Sportsnet here on Game Night on 97.3. Sixers tonight versus the Heat coming up next. Then tomorrow night they are in Brooklyn to play the Nets at 7:30. You can hear both games right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. I'm Josh Hennig at Josh Hennig on Twitter. You can hit me up there to chat more. And of course, don't forget Next, Sixers basketball. I say they're going to win tonight. Heater shorthanded. Joel Embiid is good to go. So you hear it next. Sixers basketball, 97.3 ESPN.